welcome to Theology Thursday, an ecumenical space for students to discuss matters of faith and theology.
I'm your host, Connor Grubbs.
I am your co-host, Ryan Mock.
And I'm your co-host, Johnny Grubbs.
Well, here we are, another week of Theology Thursday. And Ryan, you're about to leave us for a very long time.
I'm going on a journey.
An inward journey.
An inward journey into the bowels of my soul.
Just don't get mugged on the way.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think what we're going to do, because I don't want to leave this chair empty. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have some guests on while you're away.
Ooh.
And if you can join on Zoom, then, we can.
I might. I'll be deep in the wilderness,
Yeah.
so I can't say there will be Wi-Fi there.
No, but, who knows, So, hey, look, good luck.
Thanks.
I'm really concerned.
I'll bring you a souvenir.
Johnny's worried about you.
I get worried about these kind of things. I don't.
Because you're a good dad.
Johnny's going to be up at night thinking about me, like, what if he's scared and it's raining and he's hungry and...
Something, I know, we're peers, but, something in me ever since I had a child is just, that kind of thing.
I'm your child now.
No, I'm just thinking,
Every time Johnny looks at you, he thinks of Zoe.
No, that's definitely not
Dad,
true.
Dad, please.
Stop, no.
You're just so adorable.
It's just the concept of are you, do you have everything you need, and I think the biggest thing is that you're saying on all this, the public park things,
Yeah. I'm camping in national forests and BLM areas.
So those are high robbery areas. So, it's just,
I don't know why. I don't know where you get that information from.
I'll send you some stats, but it's true.
Okay.
Send
me some stats.
Just be careful, though. I mean, but seriously, because that's where people live full time. And, sometimes that's, the only way that they make a living.
Yeah.
Is, by stealing from people like you.
You like me, yeah.
So.
Yeah,
I'm vulnerable.
But with COVID, they've been short on supplies, so Ryan wants to help them continue their career.
That's what you should do. You should bring some extra stuff, like burner stuff.
Yeah,
to get
just
stolen.
take. Oh no! Don't take my 5 bags of Cheetos. No, please no.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
Thanks.
We love you.
I love me too.
So
That's why he's doing this.
You can't see it right now, although you will see. This is pretty fantastic, actually. Yeah, we got a little fancier this week. We actually have a monitor now. Doesn't that feel kind of fancy?
I'm looking at Twitter right now.
Yeah, you're looking at Twitter. Usually I'm just kind of reading, and now we get to all. So, y'all see it in the corner, but we actually have a screen we can look at now. It feels fancy.
Yeah.
It feels fancy. We're adding little things every week.
We're moving up in the ranks.
We want to thank our Patreons for helping us make that possible. Because you didn't pay for the TV, but you.
I'm about to say
you did pay for
That's
the
my
you did
TV.
you did pay for the cord that's sending it from my computer to the TV. So,
There you go.
okay, we're on Twitter. All right.
As I often am.
Yeah. Have you guys seen this tweet from Justin Dean, or is this your first time seeing this?
This is my first time seeing this.
Okay,
I don't
so
think I follow.
Justin Dean used to work at Mars Hill. He was kind of their marketing PR guy. He was.
I did see this.
So he was supposed to be on. Johnny, have you seen this?
No, I haven't
Oh,
seen
he
it.
was supposed to be on the rise and fall of Mars Hill, but then after listening to it, he sent this email to Mike Cosper declining the interview. Let's see what he had to say.
Yeah, this is really juicy stuff because,
Oh man, that's
too small.
unfortunately, it
zoom
gets
in?
pixelated in displays like this.
I could read it. Can I read it?
You want to read it?
Yeah. Oh, we could do paragraphs. We could popcorn
No,
read.
just
No,
read it.
Whatever.
I don't want to look at the light. It's too close to the TV.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for your interest in my story. After taking the time to catch up on the podcast, I've decided to decline participating. It's good to look back on Mars Hill and reflect on what happened, so I appreciate what you are doing. There is certainly a lot to be learned and a lot to discuss about what we could have done better. But the focus of the show so far seems to be asserting that Mars Hill was abusive, when that just isn't the case. There has been little to no focus at all on the good that was done, and nothing positive so far.
I
Okay, we're gonna pause
disagree
right
with
there.
that
The
completely.
entirety of episode 3 was about how all the great things that Mark Driscoll did in the early years of the church, about how he was providing for single mothers and how he was
Right.
So
To say,
we can kind of pause throughout and react because
you could say there's little, but you can't say there's none. It's very obvious there's some.
I felt like they laid that groundwork before going into all
Right.
of the negative stuff. Is they said this is why some people wanted to be a part of it, and you can't blame them. Like, these were the good things that Mark did, and these were the good things that were happening. So I just want to say already, like, that's not true.
Yeah.
That they haven't said anything.
Yeah, and I
positive.
think that's what struck me about some of the episodes. I'm like they didn't even try to like say they did this good, but like sometimes
No.
they would just
Said,
lay it out there,
they
and you'd
did
be
good
like,
stuff, they did
"Wow,
bad stuff.
that's amazing that they did that."
What do
know?
you do with it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
By the way, we are talking about the rise and fall of Mars Hill podcast. For those of you out of the loop.
Yeah, and if we're gonna explain that, do you want to explain what that is?
Oh, it's a podcast about the rise and fall of Mars Hill.
Thank you. Which was Mark Driscoll's church.
Yeah, which most people probably already know, but I need kind of explain
Okay.
it. So yeah,
All right,
here
here
we
we
go.
go. Okay.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I have my own criticisms of Mark to share and mistakes that I've made to fess up to, but I didn't realize the show would focus solely on that. I'm surprised by this. Maybe I was giving you the benefit of the doubt, but I didn't think this is what it was about, and I fear the popularity of the podcast is going to spark even more shows that promote the failings of other churches. And that's just not a project I want to be a part of. This is not how we move forward from these experiences with grace. How does this show fit in with Christianity Today's mission to, quote, strengthen the church by richly communicating the breadth of the true, good, and beautiful gospel?
I'm glad he was able to copy and paste that from the website.
Yes. I appreciate the quality of the podcast, and while there is truth in a lot of the content, I'm not comfortable with the direction you've taken. In 7 episodes so far, the majority
This
of
is
the
my favorite
people
part.
the majority of the people you've interviewed are feminists or progressive Christians or people who don't even consider themselves Christians at all.
Pause. Ed Stetzer is now a progressive Christian.
Yeah, well, I guess that happened at the Southern Baptist Convention.
But he's not progressive. Like, he's still a part of a very conservative complementarian church. He's not a part of the Southern Baptist Convention anymore, but he was in charge of Lifeway for years. And granted, he says you should get vaccinated, and he says abuse is wrong. That doesn't make you a progressive.
Oh,
that makes
that's
you a
crazy.
decent person.
That is so progressive, freaky weirdness.
Anyway, so and yeah, I thought that was really interesting because again, that's just not true.
Right, yeah.
They're not only interviewing feminists and progressives.
Did he actually listen to these
Yeah,
episodes?
that's what I'm wondering, because like it's crazy. I bet you this gets read on the show.
Oh, I know. I'm sure Mike will address it. So I just wanted to, because that's another thing.
Yeah, well, it gets better here. One of the major themes seems to be that complementarianism in itself is abusive, which is far from reality. The show criticizes a lot of different issues, but nobody is providing the other side, explaining why we did what we did. It seems the thought is that it wouldn't matter.
Okay, so if you're referring to things you did that were abusive, it doesn't matter why you did them. It was wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can see where you might draw the implication, though he never says this on the show, the implication that complementarianism is in and of itself abusive from what's said on this show and kind of what's unveiled. Which...
Well, it's not explicitly said. I think it certainly sets things up. Like, I know that we all have, come to different or same conclusions, but I don't know. I think that it can set it up for that, but it's not automatically abusive necessarily.
Right.
And
I don't think the show pushes that direction. I think it just kind of states some facts, and you go, "Oh, that."
No, here's what I've always thought. Look, because I know a lot of complementarian people who are good people and
Not abusive.
Yeah, who are
Right.
not abusive people, and they're good people. And here's the thing. I mean, I'm a part of a church. Its official statement of faith is complementarian, and I feel like God's called me to that church, so I submit to that for the time being. Long term, I don't know what that looks like, but I'll say this: the thing that I always thought when listening to the show is this shows the extremes of what happens if you really follow these patterns of thought to their logical conclusion. And so that's why him even saying, well, it doesn't explain why we did it. Oh, so are you saying that, like, there's some sort of justification for any of this? Because there's not. Continue.
I just don't know how my story and perspective can possibly fit in with the narrative you've developed, and I'm afraid I don't trust that I'd be represented well, even if you were interested in having the other side told. I think it's important for people to hear my perspective, as the former communications director and spokesperson for Mars Hill. However, That story may be better suited for my own blog or podcast. Your episodes so far have been littered with misinformation and half-truths and assertions that go unchecked. It's enough to warrant an episode-by-episode response if I ever find the time. Again, I appreciate you reaching out and considering having me on the show. I'm certain your intentions are good. We just don't share the same vision for what is helpful.
Okay.
Justin Dean.
Okay.
Okay.
So former communications director, like he's still doing this work for Mark Driscoll pro bono, apparently. Because I mean, come on, and he talks about, I have my own criticisms, and people said that, like, made comments on Twitter. You don't work for him anymore, it's okay. And he's like, I've criticized him before. So here's the thing. If this is true, that the episode has been littered with misinformation and half-truths, then that is a problem. And maybe, I don't know, I wasn't there. Maybe that's true, but I have little reason to trust him based on the statements that precede that accusation.
Yeah, because
and there are hundreds of people who have spoken up and said this show's going too soft.
Yeah.
That it's being too kind to Mars Hill. There are hundreds of people that are coming out and saying, yeah, that's true. I was there. I experienced it. So you have hundreds of people's word against his.
I think his statement would stand a little better if he didn't litter it with things that we know are untrue. Like, all you have to do is listen to the show to know that it's not 100% negative, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
It should have been. If you really wanted to make an accusation that was worth anybody considering, just say, I feel like this show's misrepresenting things. I don't think it's covering the full spectrum.
If he had just said that, then it would have probably gotten a little farther along. People would have been like, okay,
and so
let's explore that more. But
and this guy's responding to everybody that's going on Twitter and like,
cool.
He's responding to every single person. Very defensive, right? Here's the thing I find the most ironic about it. Okay, and of course he gives the reason. Oh, I don't want to be misrepresented, whatever. But you're complaining about how he only interviews progressives and feminists,
right?
But then refusing to come on the show,
right?
You're complaining that he's not, interviewing more people, and then you won't go on,
right?
Anyway, kind of silly, I thought. Again, maybe there's some truth to that last accusation, but I have little reason to trust him. Looking at the thing as a whole.
Well, isn't that a big howdy do?
Howdy do.
Well, I'm looking forward to the next episode of The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill. It's been too long, really.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to learn from that, and I think like every kid that goes through seminary now should have to listen to that podcast.
Yeah, and read Jesus and John Wayne.
And then, and that one of the big implications is like, don't like I keep running into these like really young senior pastors, and it's just not a good idea. Anyway, that's just me. All right, I'm done. Soapbox over.
That's why I'm going to become a fry cook.
I support that decision.
So I'm too young to be in ministry.
I didn't say young to be in ministry. I mean, senior leadership. I think there is an age threshold, a maturity threshold.
Thank you for your input, Senior Pastor Grubbs.
I'm not a senior pastor. That's the thing.
I'm just kidding.